Diamonds to Pebbles. Chapter 5. The announcement of the stargazing event spread throughout the whole kingdom and beyond its borders. King Artus extended invitations to nobles and commoners alike. Evelyn mentally prepared herself and ultimately decided that this was the perfect opportunity to test the waters of this romance. But first, she needed her best friend. Thankfully, King Artus gave her a handful of letters to be delivered to the ladies staying in the castle, which meant direct contact with Jade. Evelyn didn't know what her friend would think since it had been weeks since they last spoke. And their conversation hadn't ended on a positive note. When Evelyn reached Jade's room, she was grateful to find Jade alone. The young fairy turned in her chair in front of a vanity desk, her face unreadable. Evelyn didn't know where to begin. "So are you ready to act?" Jade started for her. Evelyn set the king's letter down on the desk and humbly crouched down at her friend's feet. "I'm terrified, but King Artus requested that I attend the event tonight as his spy." A grin crept onto Jade's face. This news was by far the most intriguing thing she had heard all day. Not only did it mean Evelyn would have to get out of that awful coat, but she would have to show off her beauty once again. "So Princess Evelyn will have to attend?" Jade asked innocently. Evelyn looked out the open window in Jade's room. "No, Princess Evelyn must not attend. If she does, then it's all over. My father will be here and drag me home before I can convince Artus of anything, let alone marriage." Jade gracefully took Evelyn's hand and rested them on her lap. "I am sure we can find a way around all of this. For starters, don't tell anyone who you are. Surely, since you are going to be there as the king's spy, he'll give you a way in without being announced." "Yes, he told me how to get in without causing a stir and already provided me with a dress from his sister's collection along with makeup." Jade cocked her head back in thought. "Well, what a shame. I'm sure Princess Rosemary has great taste, but don't you have better options? Your father's dresses might as well help you score the young king's heart." "Yes, and then my father will find me shortly after he hears about the princess with a dress like the stars showing up to a huge event." Jade playfully pinched Evelyn's nose. "Sounds like someone already thought about what dress they want to wear. How cute." "Don't worry, Evelyn, if your father comes knocking, I'll make sure he doesn't find you until you've won King Artus over." The two hugged and split as a maid walked into the room. She stared at both of them, wondering what Evelyn needed. Proving that Jade could be an excellent liar, she shooed Evelyn away. "That's all I needed from you. Thank you for getting that eyelash out." The maid paid them no attention after that. Though the maid wouldn't have made much of a fuss over the two's closeness. It wasn't unusual for Lady Jade to be on friendly terms with her staff. Quickly, Evelyn left the room as the maid pulled Jade away to prepare for the stargazing event. Realizing the time, Evelyn's walk turned into a run. The king had ordered her to return to him before the event started, so she rushed back to his room. Upon entering the chambers, she saw that he was not alone, but with his sister, who was already dressed in an elegant, dark green gown. She wore her tiara proudly on top of her head, and her snow-white curls extended past her shoulders. King Artus stood in front of a mirror while Rosemary placed the golden clasp he had won during the tournament on his matching green attire. Then Artus noticed Evelyn through the mirror, causing Rosemary to glance up as well. "So," King Artus began, "you received the dress?" Evelyn nodded in response. Artus turned around, fully looking her way. His posture was confident and solid, certain he would be able to identify Evelyn in the crowd. She might be under the impression that she was to spy for him tonight, but that was an excuse. No, he wanted to see the real her. He wanted to know what sort of woman he let into his castle and why his mother was not worried about the girl's presence. Suddenly, Rosemary laughed. "Artus, you are a source of endless amusement. Do you really have to resort to spying to find a wife?" King Artus rolled his eyes. "Please, You're far more picky than I will ever be." Evelyn dared to clear her throat, and the two looked over at her. "Yes?" Artis asked her. "May I leave, Your Majesty?" "Oh, of course. It's nearly time, isn't it? We'll see you shortly." Evelyn dipped into a quick curtsy and rushed out of the room. The only thing left was to decide if she was truly going to wear the magnified starry dress and to sneak past the kitchen without Chef Reuben spotting her. But after Artis led her into that secret passage, she discovered a few more. She believed she could make it over to one of the passages before someone spotted her. As soon as Evelyn entered the kitchen, Chef Reuben peered up from his work. A cake with strawberries was in front of him, and he was in the process of decorating it with gooey pink syrup. He smiled broadly, glad to see her. "Skipping dinner?" she asked. "Tonight, dessert comes first. Would you like to help? You have become quite a cook these past few weeks." Evelyn almost said yes, in order to avoid the nerve swelling within, but she knew that by not going, she would be prolonging her unknown fate. She forced herself to decline the offer. "Actually, I need to rest for a few hours. I've been running around all day." "Then perhaps you can make his soup later tonight," Chef Reuben said. "Just come back in when you're feeling better." She thanked Reuben and went to her room, closing the door behind her. A single candle was lit as she took out the dress Artis had given her to wear for the evening. Slowly, Evelyn took off her fur coat, her golden hair still as striking as ever. Next, Evelyn pulled out the enchanted shell Jade had given her, which contained her 3 dresses. She looked between Rosemary's old dress, sprawled out on the bed, and the shell in her hand. Off to the side, she stared at the small mirror in the room. Even just wearing the plain servant uniform she had on, she knew she couldn't hide who she was. Jade was right, if she was to go, she might as well use the gifts her father had created. If Artis took interest, he took interest. If he didn't, then she decided she'd have to find what type of woman he was looking for. She rubbed the shell gently with her thumb. A brilliant golden glow emerged from the crack, and the next thing she knew, she stood dressed in the starry gown, looking like the princess she was. "What happens if you end up asking Allerlyra to dance?" Prince Lycos asked King Artis as they walked together with Princess Rosemary beside them. "I mean, neither of us knows what she looks like under all that fur." Artis shook his head, disapproving of his cousin's question. Quite frankly, he intended to spend as much time with his cloaked maid as possible, though he would not let anyone in on his plan. He wondered what she would do when he approached her. Introduce herself as someone else or remind him of who she was. He smiled at the thought of her familiar voice telling him she couldn't do her job with him nearby, but he hadn't really instructed her to listen in on gossip this time around. He already knew well enough who he found attractive as well as loyal. "She will attempt to keep her distance from me," Artis replied. "Besides, I know what dress she is wearing, and this isn't a ball. Yes, some couples may dance, but the primary entertainment is the stars tonight." The 3 royals reached the doors leading outside to the terrace. 2 servants opened the doors for them, where a large telescope pointed at the sky and a mass of people awaited them. Artis scanned the crowd of beautiful ladies in their glittering gowns as they tried to outdo one another. Lycos leaned over to Artis and whispered, "Good luck trying to remember names this fine evening." The women seemed to have multiplied. King Artis glared at his cousin. "I am not the one who stole the hearts of half the ladies originally invited." Prince Lycos shrugged, "And I'll steal more tonight. Of course, I'm curious to find the little furball of ours. She's either covered in makeup to hide her horrid face or drop-dead gorgeous." It was Rosemary's turn to shake her head as Prince Lycos walked down the stairs and out into the crowd. "What do you think he'll do if that maid of yours is a beauty?" Artis laughed as he held his arm out for his sister to take. He wouldn't believe it was her. She raised her brows. "And you?" "It wouldn't be a surprise." Interesting, is my brother in love? Rosemary teased. He did not comment as they greeted their guests with smiling faces. They were all waiting for Artis to choose a companion for the night. His eyes immediately began searching for the dress he had prepared, eager to see the face of the woman wearing it. While strolling through the crowd, now separated from his sister, Artis spotted Jade with her dragonfly wings revealed behind her back like a cape as she chatted with other ladies. She looked stunning tonight, putting regular human girls to shame. However, there wasn't a spark between him and the lovely Jade, which made her the perfect person to speak with while he waited. "Lady Jade," he said, joining in the circle of women. Jade looked King Artis's way, curtsying like the rest of the ladies in the group. "Your Majesty. It is a beautiful night to view the stars. Though the moon's presence is sorely missed. They say it's better to view the stars on a moonless night. I take it you prefer moonlight instead?" Jade smiled. "It does offer its unique beauty, so maybe for a future event." Artis turned to the other girls in the circle, smiling at each of them. Many blushed while they smiled back. He knew he should say more, but he was already exhausted from the small talk with Jade. Just as he was about to ask if the women would like to view the moon another night, all their eyes flickered to something behind him. Jade even let out a gasp and covered her mouth with her hand to hide a grin. Artis whirled around, wondering what or who could be causing such a reaction from the ladies. The crowd no longer gazed at the stars or continued idle chatter. Everyone gawked at the woman in the starry dark blue dress as her surecape danced in the breeze. In her golden hair, a silver vine with blue stars and small diamonds circled her head. Evelyn stood frozen still as she glanced around, second-guessing her decision. When her eyes caught sight of Jade, her green hair standing out among the browns and blondes, she felt an immediate reassurance. A grin twitched on Jade's lips. Then her emerald eyes led Evelyn's over to Artis, who gazed upon Evelyn like everyone else in the crowd. Artis's mind went entirely blank, but when Evelyn returned his gaze, everything clicked. Of course, she was beautiful, for unlike the other glittering ladies, she successfully outshone the stars. Truthfully, he hadn't known his feelings when Rosemary had asked that pivotal question, but he was surely falling. He strode forward, the crowd backing up as he walked to her. When he stopped in front of her, she curtsied while her dress twinkled from the movement. He offered a similar greeting, figuring her station was far higher than he had previously predicted. "Sire, it is a pleasure," she said as she came back up, her dark golden eyes giving off the same gleam as the gown. "Likewise," he answered, certain now this was the ally he knew by the sound of her voice. He extended a hand out to her. "If you don't mind, would you accompany me to the terrace?" Evelyn peered down at his hand, suddenly worried that if she took it, she would be discovered. Of course, little did she know, he was already a step ahead and trying to determine which family she belonged to. She smiled at him and delicately stepped forward to take hold of his upper arm instead, an appropriate way to respond without dismissing his efforts. Artis guided her to the terrace. In the crowd, he spotted Lyco's baffled expression. Then envy crossed the prince's yellow eyes as they passed. Evelyn kept her sights fixed ahead, deliberating why she had chosen this option and whether the same thing would have happened if she had worn the dress he had given her. Because he had been searching for her, yes, she would have stolen the show regardless. Together, they sat down on the polished stone bench set up next to a telescope. Evelyn let go of his arm and put her hand down in her lap as she stared up at the sky. King Artis, on the other hand, stared at her while the crowd slowly began to talk again. "Who are you?" he finally asked, wondering if she would provide him with another fake name or stick to Ally. Evelyn's gaze wandered back to him, not knowing how she should respond. She had read how the old queen of Amishi, Ella, responded in a similar situation, but Evelyn didn't know Artis like Ella knew Edward. Additionally, Ella went to the ball to escape her fate as a servant while Evelyn was desperate to marry to escape her father. "I'm a girl who seeks a union of marriage. A marriage no one would dare protest against," she said truthfully, I'm afraid I am no different from other ladies present, Your Majesty. King Artus leaned thoughtfully against his knees as he soaked in this information with what he already knew about her. So, it's a power play. You need my crown. And what exactly would you offer in return? Evelyn blinked, surprised he was considering it after all the spying she did for him to avoid women like her. The debt of a future king. Money, trade, easier access to Baldwin's Ocean, and an eternally grateful wife. He sat up straighter, one hand resting in the space between them. Sounds like a worthy exchange, but I don't want just a grateful wife. Her heart sank, and she berated herself for thinking it would be that easy. Then what else? A wife completely in love with me. Do you think you could add that to the arrangement? Evelyn had to look away from him as the dimple formed on his cheek. Her face felt hot, and she didn't understand why he wasn't questioning her further. She still hadn't given him a name or where she was from. It wasn't like him at all, and while the dress was marvelous, she didn't think it produced miracles. Perhaps, with more time, she whispered. He glanced at the telescope. Then why don't you take a look first? I'll give you all the time you need. Evelyn couldn't decide whether he meant time spent looking through the telescope or time to fall in love with him, or maybe both. Regardless, she leaned forward to peer through the scope, which was pointed at a particular set of stars. She smiled at the focused image, the stars appearing as diamonds laid out on a velvet fabric. Meanwhile, Artus continued to admire her, his smile growing when he noticed hers light up. When she was done, she backed away and craned her neck to look at the sky with her naked eyes. They are more stunning than I imagined. However, I enjoy seeing them all at once like this. Her hand settled down on the bench, landing on top of Artus's fingers. She tried to bring her hand away, not wanting to invade his space, but Artus found he didn't mind. He shifted his fingers so they rested on hers instead, and after that, she didn't dare move them. So you really aren't going to tell me your name? He asked, still staring at her rather than the stars. He decided he needed to be more specific about what he wanted. She kept her eyes trained on the sky as she said sadly, nothing is in a name, at least for me, that is. I used to adore the name I was given by my father, along with the looks from my mother. Her eyes traveled down to his. Sorry. I didn't mean to tell you a sob story, sire. King Artus sat a little straighter. No, it's fine. I just wanted to have a name to call you by. Perhaps you have another name? Evelyn hid a smile at the edge of her lips. The only other names she was known by, besides Evelyn, were the one Prince Lycos so graciously bestowed upon her in Alley. But now certainly wasn't the time to tell King Artus that she was the woman hiding behind all the fur. Artus took note of her reaction, aware that she was his servant. There are other names, but they are more of a jest. However, as time has gone on, I accept them more than I do my given name. So you have distanced yourself from your family for the time being? Evelyn nodded and was reminded that she didn't know when she would see her brother again. Then marriage to me will create the bridge you need to reunite with them again. You have caught me, Your Majesty. Indeed, the only thing that can save me is finding myself a husband besides the one, she faltered as she knew she couldn't bring herself to say it. The one your parents wished for you to marry, he said. Did your beauty attract the eye of unwanted attention? Evelyn closed her eyes for a brief moment. That's one way to phrase it. Artus chuckled lightly as he did when Evelyn was Allerlyra. She had grown rather fond of the sound. You shouldn't wear elaborate dresses like this, but I hardly doubt that you would go unnoticed no matter the gown. That is why I decided I shouldn't worry about what happens tonight and just be. She was stopped by the sound of trumpets behind her. The two of them turned around and stood to face the doors behind them. The trumpets faded, and a man announced the arrival of Snow White and Nathaniel, Artus's parents. Though the event was for encouraging young men and women to mingle, it was also in honor of Snow and Nathaniel's wedding anniversary. Though Evelyn knew perfectly well that Snow White was a woman of her word, she was afraid that by seeing Evelyn dressed as a princess, the assumption would be made that King Artus knew who she was. That was not the case, so she decided it was the prime opportunity to slip away while King Artus was distracted. While he watched his mother and father step through the doors and out onto the terrace, Evelyn started toward the stairs, her eyes glancing over at Snow White. Artus felt her absence next to him, but did not attempt to stop her. He learned enough for tonight and knew where she was headed. Evelyn dashed into an herb garden and opened up a passage along a stone wall leading back to the inside of the castle. Once she was in her room, she grabbed her shell and rubbed it. Magic swirled around her until she was back in her uniform, but her face was very much polished clean. To play her role as Allerlyra again, she patted dirt and grime onto her face. Then she reached over to her coat and put it on. Princess Evelyn was gone from sight, though it was hard to keep her smile contained. That's when she remembered the soup she had to make. She was about to leave her room, but then she got an idea. She went back over to her bed again and slipped out one of the golden objects Jade had given her. Evelyn looked at the golden ring, her eyes sparkling, as she said, "Perhaps he is my knight after all."